Hey guys, back again with another video, a review or impressions video, I don't know what to call this yet, on Super Mario 64, a game that I'm sure most of you have already played. This is a game I've struggled to get into over the years, and it's often considered one of the greatest games of all time, but I haven't really put a whole lot of time into it. I've maybe put like an hour or two at like 3 or 4 separate occasions, and I don't know, for whatever reason I couldn't get into it. Especially compared to other 3D platformers like Banjo-Kazooie, which is still, I think, my favorite. And this type of game we don't see too often these days. And I was really feeling in the mood for a 3D platformer, so I decided to give this game one last shot. I played the original N64 version on the Wii U using like a gamepad or a Wii U controller. I actually was able to get into it this time, and I loved it. It's still got a lot of problems. I don't think it's the best 3D Mario platformer. I don't even think it's the best 3D platformer on the N64. I think actually Banjo-Kazooie improved upon this game in many different ways. But I did really enjoy my time with this game, and so I would call myself a fan of this game now. It was the last big, like, notable N64 game that I didn't play either. I didn't really play it back in the day. I didn't get an N64 at launch. I got one back, I think, in like 1999, around the time Smash Brothers came out. And I just never went back to it. Some of my friends had it, but I didn't actually ever borrow it. So I don't have the nostalgia for this game, which is probably a big factor as to why I don't love this game like a lot of people do. I think it has some flaws, some very notable issues, which we'll get into. I guess we'll start with the story, which there's not much of a story being a Mario game. But you're basically going after Bowser once again. He's kind of taken over Princess Peach's castle, and he's kind of got like these worlds that are like built into the paintings that you kind of gotta go through, and you're basically collecting enough power stars to take Bowser on and kind of drive him away from the castle and kind of rescue Princess Peach. Very simple storyline. It works with the game. I think one of the interesting things with Mario 64 is it definitely has more of a plot than previous Mario games, but there's not much of one, but there is voice acting this time around. You get voice acting for Peach, and I think this is like one of the first games of Charles Martinet voicing Mario, which I thought was kind of interesting. But yeah, the story is not why you're going to be playing this game. It's the gameplay, and this game is a landmark game for 3D platformers. It kind of invented a formula where you basically, you're collecting stars to kind of unlock different worlds throughout the castle. The castle kind of acts as your hub world, and you kind of jump into paintings, and those are your kind of like self-contained worlds. And you collect kind of power stars to kind of progress through the game. And that kind of formula was kind of used in a bunch of different 3D platformers following this. Banjo-Kazooie did a few different things, and there's one thing I don't like about this, and that's basically each world has 7 stars, 6 like kind of quest stars, and then another one if you get all 100, or not all 100, but if you get 100 coins in each world, you'll get another star. And most of these stars are kind of self-contained, where, for instance, in the first world, Bomb Battlefield, there's a race that you have to do with one of the Koopas. And this race only appears, like the Koopa only appears if you select the specific star tied to that, called like the Koopa race or something like that. And you're going to go into that world, and it's going to be generally similar to what it's been before, but there might be a few different things depending on the star you choose. So you're kind of being constantly pulled back out of the world anytime you get a star. And oftentimes you're not going to be able to get like 2 or more stars in one go when you're in the world. So if you're going through the world and you see 2 different stars, you'll be able to get 1 or 2 of them. You have to make the choice, but you're going to be kicked out if you get one of those stars, and that I think kind of disrupts the flow of this game for me. I'm not actually a big fan of that, but I know they were just kind of trying things, and this was this was a new thing for 3D platformers, and this was like one of the first 3D platformers anyways. So I can kind of cut them some slack, but I really think Banjo-Kazooie handled this much better, where you had your separate worlds and you could get as many jiggies as you wanted, and you weren't just kicked out every time you got a new one. But that definitely did cause some frustrations. Now, the 100 coins stars you can still get and then go after other stars in the world, but that's pretty frustrating too. One of the things I hate about this game are the 100 coin stars, and I actually got 105 out of 120 stars in this game. You need, I think, what, 70 of them to face Bowser, so you get some freedom of choice with which stars to go after, and some are obviously harder than others, but you can actually get through this game fairly easily if you just want to go for like the base 70 stars. But if you want to go for all 120, that's where the challenge in this game comes from, and this game is fairly challenging. I was actually kind of shocked by how difficult this game was. Some of the later worlds, the Tall Tall Mountain, the Clock Tower world, and then Rainbow Ride especially, are pretty insane. It's like you have to go a far way to get some of these stars, and if you die at any point, you're kicked out of the painting, and you have to go in and do it all over again. So that can be pretty frustrating. And some of these stars are pretty nasty. Basically with Rainbow Ride, one of them you had to like get to the very top of the area, riding like these magic carpets, and it got harder as you got to the higher points. And if you fell at any time near the star, you'd have to do it all over again. Like, it was ridiculous. But I did end up getting all the stars for all the worlds, like the main stars and even all the red coins. But the ones I didn't get were the ones having to do with collecting 100 coins in a level. And these suck. I found like these were basically padding, and they were very frustrating, and it basically turns the game into a collectathon, because in each world there's never more than like 106 or so coins. In fact, I'm pretty sure some worlds there's exactly 100 coins. And these worlds are, you know, they're not massive, but they're fairly big. And at any point you die while collecting these 100 coins, you have to do it all over again. It was very frustrating, and I was trying this for the first few worlds, but eventually I just gave up. It was not fun. In fact, getting all 120 stars in this game would be a very tedious and frustrating experience that I wouldn't want to wish on anyone. It's a shame, because I think if they cut out those 100 coin stars and just added another star in each of the worlds, I would enjoy this game a lot more, and I probably would have 100%ed it. But as it stands, you know, it's fun going for like at least 100 or more stars, but going for those 100 coin stars is just irritating. Other gameplay things, Mario's moveset is very versatile. I actually really enjoy his moveset in this game, where you've got your long jump, your triple jump, your backflips. You can kind of like throw punches at enemies. And it takes a while to learn his moveset, but you can do some really nifty things if you've kind of mastered like the controls and all the different moves that he has. In fact, you can easily get to stars and skip certain parts of levels if you've mastered these moves. And obviously speedrunners have completely taken advantage of the moveset in this game. And there's a lot of it. There's a lot of different moves you can use in this game, and it's pretty gratifying learning all of them and kind of using them to your advantage. Really great stuff. I think that's one of the highlights of Super Mario 64 in general. The actual world design, I think, is really clever. It's always a pretty fun game to play. There are some annoying spots. The shifting sand world in particular I thought was really irritating. I pretty much hated everything about that world. The hub world, like of the castle, is fun to explore. It's not too big to be overwhelming, but has just enough secrets to be engaging. So I really liked that. I liked the puzzle elements they had with jumping into different paintings. So there's a lot to like here with gameplay, but one thing that really hasn't aged well, I'd say the actual game design here has aged well, but what hasn't is the camera. The camera in this game, it's atrocious. There's no other way to put it. It's aged incredibly poorly. There's no full control over it. It's on the C buttons on the original N64 game, where you can kind of press the left and right C stick to move the camera kind of left and right to get a better view of your surroundings. You can kind of bring it back and then kind of zoom it in closer to Mario. But oftentimes the default camera angle is way too close to Mario, and it's very hard to see things, and it's very hard to get a good angle on things, and it can also be quite hard to judge distances. And the camera caused a lot of my deaths in this game. It was very frustrating. It required constant adjustments, and I never felt like it was quite right. Which is it's definitely unfortunate. I really struggled with it, and it really pissed me off at many points in this game. you can kind of like get a better view of your surroundings if you kind of like bring it close to Mario, and then you can kind of use the right analog stick to get a better view of what's around you. But that's really cumbersome to do, and I don't know, man. I just think this camera, like Banjo-Kazooie, one of the things I loved about that game is that it really perfected the camera in Mario 64. Like, it's way better in that game, and going from that to this was just it was jarring. And I'm sure the camera was fine for the time when this game came out back in 1996, but now it's just a pain in the ass to deal with, and I think it's the game's biggest downfall. I think it honestly is what keeps this game from being a timeless masterpiece like so many people claim it is. I don't know, man. I think it's problematic in a lot of ways, but overall, though, the gameplay is super enjoyable. I guess the one other thing about it that I didn't like were the Bowser boss fights. They're completely lazy, and they basically, you have to like fight Bowser multiple different times, and it's the exact same fight. They add a few different wrinkles to it, but it's annoying because you have to grab him by the tail and kind of spin him around and throw him at a bomb, and it's very hard to judge like the distance. And you know, judging which speed you have to throw them at, it was very tedious. I did not enjoy the Bowser battles at all. You know, some of the worlds, like I said before, like the Shifting Sands lands, I thought were really annoying. But overall, I did really enjoy this game, and it's one of those games like a 3D platformer. I've missed this kind of game. It's been a while since I've played one. But I do actually, for the most part, fairly, like, kind of understand why people love this game so much. But I'm sorry, man. Banjo-Kazooie, I think, really trumps it, even as far as, like, N64 platformers go. But visuals, you know what? This game actually holds up, I think. I think this game looks pretty good. I mean, the textures are fairly simple, but the game's very colorful. And I think, I don't know, they worked with what they had with, like, the N64 hardware. And I think this game, surprisingly, holds up visually. Of course, it's not like this amazing looking game. It's not one of the best looking games on the N64, but the frame rate is okay. Like, it's not terrible like a lot of N64 games, which was a pleasant surprise, actually. So I think that makes this game hold up in some ways. The audio, the soundtrack in this game is phenomenal. I loved the soundtrack. There's not too many songs, and a lot of them are like classic Mario themes, but a lot of the new songs in this game are fantastic. Like the Dire Dire Docks theme is one that a lot of people think is amazing. I really like it. My favorite song was like one of the songs that played in I think the Shifting Sands level and then the Fire world. It's this like atmospheric kind of almost like Indian themed instruments are like playing in this song. It really gives the game like an atmosphere, at least with those levels. A lot of the music's really catchy, like with the Battlefield theme. But yeah, it's there's not a whole lot of songs, but the songs that are in this game are really good and really catchy, really memorable. One of the highlights of the game for sure. But yeah, I mean, I guess that about covers it. I don't think there's too much more to say about this game. But if you haven't played it, definitely give it a shot. It's cheap on the Wii U Virtual Console, and I think it's a good way to play it. There is the DS version, though, and I was originally planning on playing it, but looking into it, it actually does seem like the inferior version. The movement scheme in that game was completely changed, where there's like a run button. And apparently that causes a lot of frustrations with the controls because it was kind of designed for a D-pad on like the original DS, and apparently the analog stick on the 3DS doesn't make it that much better. They added some more stars, and there's like a few more playable characters, and the game looks a lot uglier from what I've seen, but apparently there's like a lot of control issues with that version of the game. So I think if you do want to play this game, if you're like me and haven't really played this game all that much, although I imagine most people watching this review have played this game, and probably even have some nostalgic attachment towards it. I wish I did, but yeah, go with the original N64 version. I would recommend it on the Wii U or the Wii, because the N64 controller, in my opinion, hasn't held up too well. I think that's a terrible controller. And it plays pretty well with like the Wii U Pro controller, which is what I primarily used. But yeah, enjoyable game. I really enjoyed it for the most part. I think it's a great game. It's held up well for the most part, despite that really problematic camera. But yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.